Hello, everybody. Welcome to Dangerous Ideas. I am Lee Camp, the most censored comedian in America. Welcome, everybody. We will continue to discuss today Trump and Elon Musk. By the way, I've made the decision now. Instead of saying Trump and Elon Musk, it's just President Mump. Okay, can we just all agree it's President Mump? Like, it just saves a lot of time, a lot of energy. Donald Trump and Elon Musk, it's just President Mump, okay? Anyway, President Mump is maybe tearing their way through Social Security soon. I'm going to dive into that a little bit. What is the truth? What is not the truth? Because there are a lot of liberal outlets that want to freak out about things Trump are doing that are not quite worth freaking out over. And there are a lot of right-wing outlets that want to act like President Mump are not doing things are doing things that they're not doing. Anyway, we're not doing things they are doing. Whatever I'm saying, you get what I'm saying, okay? Whatever it is that was just said happened. It's just we did it. So I'll be getting into that. Are they really aiming to gut Social Security? And the truth behind that. Also, this is a year since Aaron Bushnell's act of self-immolation to call attention to the G-side in Gaza. And I'll be talking about that as well. And so much more. All that and more. Please click thumbs up. Please click subscribe. Please share. But let's start off with, we hardly got to know the memories of Mitch McConnell, who has said he'll be retiring at the ripe young age of 83. And this is put together by Ken Klippenstein, who always does great job. And he put together some of the greatest hits or greatest. They're not really greatest hits. They're greatest pauses. They're greatest ridiculously awkward pauses of Mitch McConnell. And here's the thing. I wouldn't make light of this. I wouldn't laugh at it. I wouldn't even talk about it if it weren't for the fact that these people are supposedly controlling the United States of America. They're some of the most powerful people in America, and they keep. He calls it. Klippenstein calls it a gerontocracy. I don't think he's the first to use that term, but to force these people who are past their prime, past their ability to think, past their, and this is not to say every 83-year-old can't think, but this one can't, past their ability to be doing this job, and they keep being shoved into those offices, up to those podiums, because it's just easier to win elections if the name on the ballot is the same guy. Furthermore, corporate America doesn't have to worry that he's going to behave like a curveball. He's not going to turn against corporate America because they know how he'll behave because he's been doing it for 7,900 years. Anyway, here is we'll go through a couple of Mitch McConnell's greatest hits. Those amazing moments that made us know and love him so well. Cooperation and a string of. Why can't I hear this? I don't know. Maybe you guys can hear it. I can't hear it very well. Bipartisan cooperation and a string of For those listening to the podcast, he is staring into the back of his skull and saying nothing. Anything else you want to say? Or should I go back to the press? Do you want to say anything else to the press? And then they slowly realize that they need to escort him off because they need to continue the theatrics that this guy knows where he is or what he's doing. They don't just go, oh my God. Like if this would have happened to your grandpa in the living room, you'd go, oh my God, there's a problem. What's your problem? Like, I don't mean, what's your problem? Come on, Gramps. No, I mean, what is the issue? How do we help you with it? Let's go to a hospital. Let's talk to a doctor. Let's try and figure out what's going on. But instead, because they're trying to keep the false charade of America going, they say, oh, Mitch is done talking. He had no more questions or no more answers for the press, and he would like to go back to his office. No, that is not what happened. His brain short-circuited because his brain does not function any longer. And they kept propping him up there as if he was some kind of leader. By the way, Ken Klippenstein also, this may be his term, I don't know, used the term mothball mafia, which I like that one too. He called Mitch McConnell the mothball mafia and Don. Here's another one.
What are my thoughts about what?
Running for re-election in 2026.
That's
For those of you listening to the podcast,
Senator, running for re-election in 2026.
staring off into space.
All right, I'm sorry, you all. We're going to need a minute. Senator. Benny.
I'd love to know what that conversation with him is. Sir, are you aware you're not saying anything? Sir, what reality are you in right now? But no, you don't. If this weren't the laughable collapse of the U.S. empire, you wouldn't keep putting these people into office. You would say, hey, these people are past their prime and let's move on. Let's find people that can actually help Americans in their day-to-day, help anybody across this country to live a better life. But no, that's not what you do in a collapsing empire. That's not what you do in a plutocracy ruled by the wealthiest people in the goddamn country. No, in this ridiculous theatrical bullshit, you keep propping them up and you say, this is the thing you voted for. Here they are, the guys you know and love. It's elder abuse and it's ridiculous. And they did the same thing with Dianne Feinstein. They did the same thing with several of these oldest members of Congress. I mean, even Pelosi is barely functional. Here he is again. Now, this one is particularly fascinating because it's a 60 Minutes interview, and they clearly have to cut around the fact that he has no idea what he's talking about. And she does her, Leslie Stahl, the propagandist in chief of 60 Minutes, does her best to try and make him seem as if he had some answers for her. Anyway, this is just a 11-second clip, but oh, wait a second. Did I just remove it? No, it's still there. Okay, here we go.
You've said he's nasty. You said he's not very smart. You said he's a sleazeball.
Well, those were private comments, and
Well, but they're in your biography.
yeah.
She's talking, by the way, who the he is in that is Donald Trump. So Mitch McConnell, she says to Mitch McConnell, you said he's a sleazeball. Those are private comments in your book. Yes, that's right. Now, at least that one she caught him on. But the thing about editing around it, I'll show you in a second. This next one, she basically has to reframe things to or skip ahead, basically, to not acknowledge that he has no idea what he's talking about.
Your staff after.
So I think they're talking about January 6th. They're talking about the attack on the Capitol.
Your staff after the crisis was over, you went and spoke with them. It was a highly emotional situation. You remember?
Oh, I remember well.
Of course he does.
Remember what you told them?
That yeah, I remember what I told them.
That emotion turned to fury.
They just edit around it. He has no idea what he told them. He probably doesn't know what he's talking about. He probably doesn't know who them is. But they just, she says that emotion, that was an emotion. That was him going, oh, I have no idea what in God's name we're speaking about right now. Anyway, sorry to see you go, Mitch. Apparently he'll be retiring. at the age of 83, at the spring chicken age of 83. And like I said, this is what a dying empire vomits up as our quote unquote leaders. This is what it vomits up. These largely old white men that they keep in power, quote unquote, forever. And we know that for the most part, the real power does not lie in Congress. Congress barely does anything anymore. They've given up their ability to declare war, which was one of their biggest things they were responsible for. But they've also recently, it seems, given up their purse strings. That was the second most important thing, right? Was Congress has the budgetary decisions. Now, they still vote on those things. They still technically, quote unquote, decide those things. But Trump has been basically saying, yeah, I'll put the money wherever I want. So you can budget it for A, B, and C. And if I don't like A, B, and C, I won't send it there. Well, boy, that seems to be the last thing that Congress actually had some power over, was where some of this money goes. And now President Trump is saying, I don't feel like it. We'll see what happens. We'll see who wins this power struggle. Okay, speaking of where money goes, let's get into the larger topic of whether we're going to see an attack on Social Security right now. Please, everyone, click the thumbs up, click the subscribe button, and click the bell icon. It probably won't do much, but do it anyway. Helps the algorithm maybe a little bit. And I hope you will show up this coming Thursday evening, East Coast, 7 p.m. East Coast, for episode 2 of Unredacted Tonight, my new comedy show. These first few months of Unredacted Tonight will really decide, I think, in a lot of ways, whether I'm able to keep it going or not. I don't mean it's going to stop in 2 months, but if it's unable to really get a consistent audience in these first few months, that could make it very difficult going forward. So I hope you're willing to both watch it and tell people about it. Unredacted Tonight, every Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern. This second episode, I'm gonna go out on a limb here, better than the first. I know that's a big limb, but I'm doing it. Okay. So, President Mump, that's Elon Musk and President Trump. President Mump they're talking more and more about attacking Social Security. It's the largest social program in the United States. You guys probably know. By the way, in this image they have here, you see in the Oval Office, it's Donald Trump and Elon Musk with one of his 42 children on his shoulders, which he has been dragging around as a prop. We're dragging different children around as props recently. Okay, sorry. GM in the chat is asking where Unredacted Tonight will be airing. It airs on all my platforms, but I'll just go ahead and put the YouTube in here. But it's at rumble.com as well. But anyway. Okay, so he's been carrying these children around as props, basically to fend off any possible Luigi Mangioni's. He just figures if he holds these kids on his shoulders like a bulletproof vest, he'll be fine. This is a guy who rarely sees his kids. I don't know if he ever saw his kids until he decided to start bringing them around as props. I mean, I guess it does mean they get more daddy time. But anyway. So here's from People's Dispatch. The world's richest man has shown his determination to use his unelected position within the Trump presidency to wage war on the working class. Elon Musk's latest accusation of widespread fraud within the Social Security system in the U.S. could represent yet another major offensive against workers who nearly universally rely on the country's largest social service for current and future retirement plans. And let's remember what a world Social Security is one of the legs that allows capitalism to somehow still exist, because without it, you literally would see all your grandparents, or a lot of your parents, depending on how old you are, just living on the streets or moving into your basement or living in their car. It would be the saddest picture in the world if we destroy Social Security, because that's what capitalism does. But of course, if you have, truly unfettered capitalism, it cuts all the strings that were still tied to some sort of social programs. Cut the strings to public school, cut the strings to Social Security, cut the strings to Medicare and Medicaid. It's a gravity of capitalism to just suck every last dime from every last human. Anyway, DOJ has pursued access to sensitive information of millions of Americans held by the Social Security Administration. Both Trump and Musk have said they suspect that the SSA is making fraudulent Social Security payments, we will get to this, to tens of millions of dead people, claiming that people as old as 100, 200, or 300 years old are receiving Social Security benefits. These claims have been refuted by the SSA. So let's get to that. Here's a clip of President Mump in the Oval Office talking about this very topic. This is Elon Musk. He stands next to the desk as if he's, Trump's valet or something. And then the poor kid is plopped down by his knees. It's got to be the most boring thing for a 4-year-old or whatever that kid is. Anyway, here they are talking about Social Security.
Just cursory examination of Social Security, and we've got people in there that are 150 years old. Now, do you know anyone that's 150? I don't. Okay. They should be on the Guinness Book of World Records. They're missing out. So, that's a case where, I think they're probably dead. It's my guess. Or they should be very famous, one of the two. And then there's a whole bunch of Social Security payments where there's no identifying information. Well, why is there no identifying information? Obviously, we want to make sure that people who deserve to receive Social Security do receive it.
So he makes you think what he's saying is so rational, right? What a down-to-earth and rational guy. People who are 300 years old should not be receiving Social Security. God, that is so disgusting. That 200-year-olds are receiving Social Security. Okay, well, let's get to the heart of that, folks. Is that really what's going on? What do you think? Do you think maybe Elon Musk might be pulling a fast one over on you? Do you think that the two people standing right there, President Mump, are known and constant liars? And they know they can lie to you and that a certain percentage of people will fall for it? Do you think they know that when they say these things, Fox News will repeat them 24/7 and get everybody to believe them? Here's the truth about Social Security and dead people. And by the way, this is even written in Bloomberg. Bloomberg is a pro-capitalist outlet, but okay, so they talk about previous efforts. Gail Innes, under the last Trump administration, their job was to get dead people off the rolls of Social Security. And Innes in 2023 also looked into the 18.9 million entries in the Social Security's Numident. It just stands for numerical identity. It's a dumb name, but master file. We'll just say Social Security's master file of all Social Security numbers that had a birth year of 1920 and no record of death. 1920 or earlier, and no record of death. As of 2020, only 86,000 Americans were that old, but there were 18.9 million entries of people in Social Security that old without a record of death. So you look at those two numbers, right? The fact that there's 18.9 million entries in Social Security of people older than born in 1920, what is that, 80, 105, and there's only 86,000 actually alive of that age. And you look at the over 18 million that seem to be of that age in Social Security, and you go, oh my God, that is millions of people that are dead that are receiving Social Security, and I guess their family members or their friends must be stealing it every month. Wow. Thank you, Elon Musk, for getting to the bottom of this mystery. Just undead hordes just receiving billions of dollars. Here's the truth. As the author of the article says, my Social Security is in the Numident file, And if you have one, yours is too, no matter what your age is. So like I'm in the Social Security file. That doesn't mean you're receiving benefits. You get it? So just because you're in the Social Security file does not mean you're getting any benefits. It just means you're a person with a Social Security number. You could be 2 years old. You're in the Social Security file. You're not getting any benefits. So when we look at those numbers, 18 million, it does not mean they're getting benefits. Ennis, who was a Trump appointee in his first term, found that a perfectly reasonable 44,000 of those with birth dates in 1920 are actually receiving payments. So basically, Social Security is getting it almost 100% right. In 2015, her predecessor, George W. Bush appointee, had looked into those with the birth dates before 1901, making them older than any known living person at the time, and found 6.5 million with no death record. Oh my God, does that mean 6.5 million people, 125 years old or more, are receiving benefits? 6.5 million people dead people getting benefits? No, it means there's 6.5 million people that are in the Social Security system that they don't have a death record for. It does not mean they're still receiving benefits. Only 266 were receiving benefits, meaning there was 266 counts out of basically every American citizen in the Social Security system. So 266 people illegally receiving benefits, or obviously they're dead, so it's the checks have been showing up to a family member, and I guess a family member's been cashing them. 266. Essentially nothing when you look at the sheer numbers of it all. It like that is a 0.01% or whatever. Oh, sorry, it gets even worse. Of the 266, all but 13 just had the incorrect birth dates listed. So, sorry, I thought it was 266. It's actually 13 people were defrauding the system, meaning they were a family member of a dead person still receiving benefits, and they were cashing the checks, I guess. 13 out of, I don't know how many people in the Social Security system, including dead people. So it's even more than the number of people in America because it includes dead people. So it's probably billion or something. Who knows what it is? I don't know, 500 million, how far Social Security goes back and everything. But because it goes back before it was initiated, because it includes birth dates before it was initiated. Anyway, thank you. Eric the Red says that is a 0.0002% error or fraud rate. So let me ask you this. In a system that is holding our country together in many ways, and it is a 0.0002% fraud rate, should we rip it up? Should we knock hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people who were legitimately getting it off the rolls in order to get at that in order to get at that 13 people? It's insanity. And why would they do this, right? Why, if that's the truth? And by the way, Elon Musk is a number guy, right? Oh my God, what a genius, what a math genius, what a tech genius, numbers guy. He knows this. He knows there were only 13 cases of fraud. He is not that dumb in that way. He's dumb in other ways. Don't ask him for any emotional intelligence. By the way, I'm going to keep saying this, and this can be my new mantra: sociopath test. They do exist. We have them. They work pretty damn well if you do it extensively and reliably. Sociopath test. Nobody should get into any of these positions of power. And I mean running a company. I mean president. I mean Congress. I mean fucking police officers. Any position of even slight power. Sociopath test. It doesn't mean we execute them. I mean, I'll entertain that debate, but it doesn't mean we execute them. We just put them off on an island somewhere. Epstein's Island is available, for instance. And by the way, you have to separate, the men and the women, because you don't want a bunch of sociopath men on an island with women. That doesn't sound good. So yeah, actually, maybe you put them all in their own little cage. I don't know if we could have a building with a bunch of individual cages where we put people in there. No, that'd be horrible. We could never do something like that. That's morally repulsive to just put people in cages because they cause harm to humanity. Never do that. It's disgusting. God, what was I thinking? Thank goodness the U.S. doesn't do that. Put people in cages. So yeah, that's the truth of the Social Security. But the real reason they're going after it and they're lying to you is because they want to keep. They want to take that money and steal it for themselves. And there's nothing President Mump has done through their entire careers that has shown they are out for anything other than their own power and money. So why would they suddenly really want to help get the fraud out of it? It's such remarkable bullshit. And it amazes me, these people who think that President Mump stands for you in any way. Does that mean they might be doing something right here or there? Yeah. Ending the proxy war in Ukraine is right. Fucking end it. End it now. Don't kill any more people. But there is nothing they do that is for you, that they are trying to help you, that does not exist. So this whole, I want to stop fraud. Yeah, right. Then the article in People's Dispatch continues to go through some of the lies from President Mump, talking about Social Security claims of fraud or false. In order to run Social Security, Trump has chosen Frank Bisignato, a multimillionaire who made $28 million last year alone as the CEO of, also billionaires should not exist. Sociopath test, billionaires do not exist. Those two things now. Of course, then we need to shred capitalism. But I'll stick with the first two are a good start. Last year alone, as the CEO of financial services company Fiserv to be the Social Security Administration commissioner, leaving some worried about how a Wall Street banker would run the program that provides retirement benefits for tens of millions of working class people. Yeah. Why would he want to do such a thing? Why would this Frank Bisignano, multimillionaire off of Wall Street, care about Social Security so much? I wonder. Trump and Musk's plan to fire millions of federal workers would also have gotten rid of the very people tasked with administering these benefits. Social Security Administration is already experiencing staffing shortages. Almost 69, and by the way, the average people get for Social Security is like $65 a day. It is not some crazy amount of money. Almost 69 million people receive Social Security benefits. There are few things that 80% of the country believe in or agree on. Yet 79% oppose reducing the size of Social Security benefits. So 80% of the country is opposed to reducing the benefits. And yet you have President Mump really making one of their priorities to try and shred Social Security. A recent poll found that the majority of people, 58%, supported a Biden proposal to tax households making over $400,000 per month. Jesus Christ. What do you do with $400,000 a month? A month. Let me try this sentence again. Supported a Biden proposal to tax households making $400,000 a month to pay for Medicare, the government-run healthcare program for those 65 or older. And, oh God, some of these numbers just so disgusting. And let's remember, Elon Musk makes way more than $400 a month. He makes way more than $400 a day. He probably makes more than $400 an hour. But he does get $8 million a day from federal contracts. He is the largest welfare queen in America. And he's a dirty, dirty immigrant, too. Elon Musk gets $8 million a day from taxpayers. Just try to keep saying it. $8 million a day from taxpayers. $8 million a day from taxpayers. $8 million a day. I'm just going to keep repeating it. He is the largest welfare queen in our country. And he's an immigrant. And he came here. And they don't get a job. And they steal our money. That's what he did. That's what he did. Thank you, Teresa. Teresa has just gifted 5 YouTube memberships to people. Very cool. By the way, well, I'll wrap this up and then I'll make a small announcement. But anyway, like I hope that I don't pay attention to what all the other indie media sites are saying. I do look at radindiemedia.com often. radindiemedia.com, your best site for news. By the way, radindiemedia.com pays me nothing to say that. You know why they pay me nothing to say it's the best news site on the interwebs? Because I created it. And all it does is cost me money each month. And yet I keep it up there. Because why not? Radindiemedia.com. But anyway, I was going to say that I don't pay attention to what a lot of the other indie voices are saying. But I hope, for those of you who watch a lot of them, here's Rad Indie Media on the screen now. But I hope those of you who watch a lot of them, I hope whoever you're watching is able to cover both the positive things that Trump might be doing, like ending the proxy war in Ukraine. I hope they're able to cover that. And I hope they're able to cover all the shitheadery stuff that President Mump is doing. Because if you don't have both those things, then you are completely missing the point here. You need to know about all those things. If you look on CNN, you will only hear, oh my God, keep the war in Ukraine going. Can't believe Trump's ending that. He's going to shred Social Security. Can't believe that. And some of it might be accurate, but some of it is just, we need to keep killing people in Ukraine. Because if we just give them enough missiles, I'm sure that they're going to defeat Russia any day now. Just give them a few more missiles. Absolutely. But yeah, radindiemedia.com, completely free. There's no advertising on it either. It makes me negative money every month. But it basically aggregates a lot of indie sites, and we're always trying to improve it. I don't have a lot of time for it, but it is a cool news site that brings you all or a lot of cool indie sites that are doing good jobs. But okay, I want to get to Aaron Bushnell, the anniversary of his actions, and much more. I just wanted to say that probably in like a couple of weeks, somewhere between a couple of weeks to a month, I think I will need to make the live streams go private, like or go to members only or something after they air, like maybe 2 hours after they air. This is what I know a lot of live streams do. A lot of live streams have done it their entire time. It's like they're live and then it goes to members. And the main reason I'm doing that, I think I'm going to do that in 2 weeks to a month, is because I've found that it actually is hurting my algorithm, my chance of the other video clips being seen on YouTube by keeping the live streams up there. So, I'm trying to make all this stuff feasible and sustainable and all that stuff. But there's still a free way to listen to all the live streams, even if you can't listen live. Live will always remain not behind a paywall or anything. But even if you can't listen or watch live, you can still get them all for free on the podcast, which is called Moment of Clarity on Apple Podcasts, but it's called The Lee Camp Show on Spotify. But so there's still a way to, if you don't have the $6 to get to become a member at leecamp.net, my locals page, or patreon.com/leecamp. If you don't have the $6 a month, then you can always get them for free on the podcasts as well. Or you can watch live, or you can watch within the first 2 hours or whatever. There's a lot of ways. Okay. Let's keep going here. This is It's this is definitely a somber note, but I think, these type of people that make the ultimate sacrifice to draw people's attention to the horror we're creating around the world. I think we should try and remember them. I believe I covered each of the four, and yes, there were four different self-immolations connected to in the U.S. Sorry, I'm mangling the sentence, but four self-immolations about getting attention for Gaza, about what we were doing in Gaza, about the G side in Gaza, and one or two of them survived. One was a journalist who lit his arm on fire, and I think specifically said he was, lighting his arm on fire intentionally. Sorry, Hypersane Demon in the comments. I will get back to what you're asking in a minute. Anyway, so there's four, and I think we should, not forget these people. I think we should remember them. And Aaron Bushnell was perhaps the most well-known one because he was active duty military and went in front of, I think, the White House. Anyway, here's a little. This looks like it was put together by Massachusetts Peace Action. I don't know much about them, but it's a very cool little tribute to Aaron Bushnell. It's just a minute and a half, so I'm gonna play this. I don't know that it has much. I think the audio might just be music, but anyway, so for those of you listening to the podcasts, you might have to fast forward to the music, but.
I am an active duty member
Oh, go on.
of the United States Air Force, and I will no longer be complicit in genocide. I'm about to engage in an extreme act of protest, but compared to what people have been experiencing in Palestine at the hands of their colonizers, it's not extreme at all. This is what our ruling class has decided will be wrong.
It's a little late for this, but they're asking people to attend a vigil today because this is the anniversary of his death. And ultimate sacrifice to get people to pay attention to what we're doing and we're funding in Gaza. Truly is revolting what the U.S. empire will do for power, for greed, for oil, and for everything else. So rest in power, Aaron Bushnell. But on a good note, the ICC, or I guess others have referred to the ICC, Biden and Trump, not sure if you've heard of those fellas, for complicity in Israel's genocide in Gaza. A nonprofit organization has urged the International Criminal Court to investigate former President Joe Biden for fueling Israel's genocide against Palestinians in Gaza, and it has highlighted the role of current President Donald Trump, too. Democracy for the Arab World Now isn't exactly a radical organization, having previously received ample corporate funding, but has made the bold decision to submit a 172-page request to the ICC, which calls for accountability for Biden, along with his Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, and Secretary of Defense, Lloyd Austin. It documents Washington's $17.9 billion of weapons transfers, intelligence support, and political protection for Israel's genocidal war crimes. And it claims the Biden administration officials did so in full knowledge of their allies' crimes. their accessorial roles in aiding and abetting, as well as intentionally contributing to Israeli war crimes and crimes against humanity in Gaza. Trump isn't just obstructing justice, he's trying to burn down the courthouse to prevent anyone from holding Israeli criminals accountable. There are solid grounds to investigate Joe Biden, Antony Blinken, Lloyd Austin for complicity. Not only did Biden, Blinken, and Secretary Austin ignore and justify the overwhelming evidence of Israel's grotesque and deliberate crimes, overruling their own staff recommendations to halt weapons transfers to Israel, they doubled down by providing Israel with unconditional military and political support to ensure it could carry out its atrocities. Israel could not have committed without U.S. military and political support. Their public support justifying Israeli atrocities helped ensure popular sympathy for Israeli war crimes, crimes against humanity, and genocide. So, Canary reporting on that, another great outlet. And yeah, it's good to. I hope they get to spend some time in court. That'd be lovely. We could follow it on our TVs like the OJ trial. It'd be exciting. It would bring the nation together. We get to watch those war criminal clowns in court. Oh, that'd be wonderful. I hope we see the day. Anyway, I have another person in the chat who joined late who's asking about President Mump. That would be President Musk and Trump, because they're not two different things now. It's just President Mump. Okay, let's get it straight. Let's see. I said I would respond to this. Hypersane Demon said, unredacted tonight. Can you post those links in the description? I'm not sure if you mean the unredacted links or the podcast links, but they're all at linktree.com/Lee Camp. Pretty much everything I have, or most of what I have, is at linktree.com/Lee Camp. So when you forget all the other links, check out linktree.com/Lee Camp. All right, I want to stay on the topic of Israel for a moment. 2024 was the deadliest year for journalists in over 3 decades. Nearly 70% were killed by Israel. 70% of all journalists killed in 2024 were killed by Israel. And believe it or not, this is CNN covering this. Now, they're not giving it 24/7 coverage like they will when President Mump farts, but at least there's an article. At least they threw a little article this direction. Last year was the deadliest year for journalists in more than 3 decades, with the majority killed. Now they're making it vague. Now they're backing off. With the majority killed in the Middle East. I think killed very specifically in the Middle East. In fact, I think they were almost all 70% of a very specific population in a 25 by 5 mile area of ground. Anyway, at least 124 journalists and media workers were killed in 2024, the most recorded since the Committee to Protect Journalists started collecting data. Oh, so it's not in 30 years. That's when they started collecting data. It might be the most journalists ever, because there were you go back to like World War I and before, there were far fewer journalists at all. And we know that there's been more journalists killed in Gaza by Israel intentionally than were killed in World War II. We know there's been more journalists killed in Gaza than were killed in the Vietnam War. We know there's been more journalists killed in Gaza than pretty much all the wars after that. So really, when they say the past 30 years, this is likely 2024 was likely the most ever journalists killed ever. Now, part of that, you go back far enough, part of that is there are far more journalists now because anyone can record and write about things on their phone. You don't need to have an outlet. You don't need to have a big, powerful newspaper. And they're probably not even counting a lot of quote-unquote journalists, the ones that are citizen journalists, the ones that are indie journalists. They're probably not even counting those. So it's probably way more than 124. Nearly 70% of those deaths were at the hands of the Israeli military in Gaza and Lebanon, the report said, with 82 Palestinian journalists killed in Gaza. And there's also others that you wouldn't call them journalists, but they were the people getting the message out about the G side in Gaza. So the Israel has killed many of the poets that were in Gaza. They've killed many of the academics who wrote about what was happening in Gaza. They've killed many who were just popular, kind of like influencers, as we say today, that had larger Instagram or Twitter followings and were posting about Gaza. Now, you might not list them on the journalist page because maybe they aren't writing articles. Maybe they aren't connected to any even small outlet, online outlet, but they're getting the word out. So it's really the same as killing a journalist. It's essentially the same. But so, yeah, even CNN wrote a little article about that. Wow, CNN, that was so courageous of you. It only took a year of journalists being murdered every day for you to write one little article about how it was the most deadly year for your colleagues ever. You say past 30 years, but you really lay it out. Ever. Okay, so let's... Boris Johnson has admitted something, which I've covered before, how Boris Johnson admitted that the war in Ukraine is a proxy war. And if you admit the Ukraine war is a proxy war, it destroys all of the reasons that we were told that we had to support Ukraine. Once you admit it's a proxy war, everything unravels. And yet I covered the fact that Boris Johnson several months ago wrote an article, I can't remember which outlet, wrote an article where he said what we're fighting for in Ukraine is Western hegemony. Like basically Western control of the world is what we're... So he didn't use the words proxy war, but he was saying it's a proxy war. If you're fighting for your Western control of the world, proxy war. But here he is saying the actual words. Actually, just straight up admitting it.
We are, let's face it, we're waging a proxy war. We're waging a proxy war, but we're not giving...
Sorry, was that a little unclear? Let's try this again.
We are, let's face it, we're waging a proxy war. We're waging a proxy war.
Hold on, what was that? I didn't hear.
We are, let's face it, we're waging a proxy war. We're waging a proxy war, but we're not giving our proxies the ability to do the job. And we're...
Oh, just straight up in your face. This is a fucking proxy war. And you know, and by the way, could he look any more like the troll from Princess Bride? Like, he's trying so hard to look like the dude that lives in the tree stump from Princess Bride. Honestly, I've never seen anyone try that hard to look like the guy with it's like green stuff growing out of his face. Really, really impressive. It's impressive work. I don't know if this was filmed on Halloween, but well done, Boris Johnson. But of course, he is not the only one to publicly admit. I mean, of the insiders of the small club of ass clowns that rule over these systems. And I brought this video to you when it aired a couple years ago. This is Leon Panetta, former defense secretary, former head of the CIA. And here he is.
I think we are engaged in a conflict here. It's a proxy war with Russia, whether we say so or not.
Sorry, what was that?
A conflict here. It's a proxy war with Russia, whether we say so or not.
Sorry, I had my earplugs in. What?
We are engaged in a conflict here. It's a proxy war with Russia, whether we say so or not. That effectively is what's going on. And for that reason, we've got to make sure we're providing as much weaponry as possible to give the Ukrainians the ability to continue what is a very courageous fight.
So they go on, both of them, Panetta and Boris Johnson, go on to say, no, they should fight our proxy war. They should all die for us. We're not going to be there. We're not going to be the ones dying. Certainly the rich of America are never the ones dying, or their kids. We're not going to be there, but those Ukrainians should definitely go walk into the meat grinder in our proxy war against Russia. And I need you to say again that once you admit it's a proxy war, all the other propaganda about it's Ukraine fighting Russia, Russia invaded, and it's just Ukraine. Who knows who blew up the Nord Stream pipeline? And it's just Russia's attacking Ukraine, and Ukraine's just trying so hard to fight. Once you admit it's a proxy war, all that justification is out the window. It's all out the window. You can't say 80% of what they've said once you admit it's a proxy war. And by the way, this is yet another topic where when it first started happening, like that year, 2022, was it? Those of us saying it was a proxy war from day one, and those of us giving you the history that goes back to 2014 or even before 2014, we were tarred and feathered. We were called Putin apologists. We were called everything and of course censored. And I'm still shadow banned. I'm still shadow banned on essentially every platform for saying things like this, for saying this is a proxy war. I'm just agreeing with the goddamn former defense secretary, former head of the CIA. I'm just agreeing with Boris Johnson, former prime minister when this proxy war started. I'm just agreeing with those guys. And yet 12 people are allowed to see my Facebook. Even New York Times has admitted the CIA was training and arming Ukrainians in 2014. New York Times admitted that. But I'm the one who gets shadow banned on all these platforms. Okay, couple more stories real quick. This is interesting because we have all this anti-immigrant hate being led by President Mump, that Spain, and of course there's anti-immigrant hate in a lot of European countries as well. And, that a lot of that has to do with the rise of the right wing in some of these countries. Some of it has to do with when you are in we're in late stage capitalism. So is Europe. People begin struggling more and more. The rich get richer and richer. The inequality gets more and more drastic. People start struggling more. Well, who are they going to blame? You certainly don't want them blaming the rich, right? You don't want them pointing their anger and their misery and their frustration. You don't want them pointing it at the 0.1% or the 1%. So you got to give them other places to point it. One of the best ones, immigrants, because it's always easy to push racism. That's one of the best things to do. So, but here's Spain, which has gone the opposite direction. Spain's radically, and this is even coming from The Guardian, Spain's radically different approach to migration helped its economy soar. From Madrid to Barcelona, restaurants and bars are brimming, blah, blah, blah. Lots of hotels, but guess you get the point. It's a glimpse of how Spain has become Europe's busiest economy, named the world's best by The Economist magazine in 2024, fueled in part by what analysts have described as the government's strikingly different approach to migration. This difference was laid bare late last year when Spain's prime minister gave a stark warning on migration. But unlike his counterparts in Italy, Germany, and France, Pedro Sanchez was intent on rallying the country behind a markedly different approach. Spain needs to choose between being an open and prosperous country or a closed-off, poor country. It's as simple as that. Migration was not only a question of humanity, he said, but in a country where the birth rate ranked among the lowest in the EU, it was the only realistic means of growing the economy. Now, we could have another debate about how capitalism's killing the world and we really shouldn't be growing everything, but we'll put that aside for the moment. Months on, his stance has seemingly been backed by economic data. Spain's economy expanded 3.2% last year, far outpaced Germany's 0.2%. Oh, sorry, Germany's 0.2% contraction. So Germany's actually in contraction. France's 1.1% growth, Italy's 0.5% growth. The figure was also ahead of Britain, whose total GDP grew by 0.9%, and the Netherlands 0.8%. So Spain's economy was listed as the best in the world because they actually embraced immigration. What? How could that be? A record 94 million tourists visited Spain last year, up 10% from the previous year. High rates of migration allowed Spain to take advantage, push unemployment levels to their lowest since 2008. And they go on to list many ways that it has bolstered the economy, has bolstered people's lives. It's almost like if you welcome everyone and you're good to other humans, it generally works well for people. I don't know. That's such a crazy thing, right? To consider that we're all human and that largely nation states are a stupid idea. And I've read you recently quotes about how those who I think are analyzing things correctly say that the hyper capitalists, the billionaires at the top of the system, they don't care about nation states, right? They're jumping from one to another. Elon Musk is from South Africa, lived in Canada, now he's in America. They jump around the world. They don't give a shit. Hopping from one to the next, wherever the money's greenest. But nation states are largely used as population control mechanisms for those who are not billionaires. Okay, what do we got time for here? One more good news story. Purdue Pharma and the Sackler family members are to pay $7.4 billion in the national opioid settlement. This is covered in NPR. State attorneys general have reached a new opioid settlement with Purdue Pharma, the company that makes OxyContin. The tentative deal is worth more than $7 billion. By the way, Purdue Pharma, I believe, is bankrupt, has already been bankrupt. It's already been taken away from the Sacklers. So the Sackler family are not running it anymore. It says the company's owners are Sackler family. I don't know. Maybe they have to get rid of it eventually. I thought they were separated from it. But anyway, it does not give them immunity from future opioid lawsuits as the family had hoped. NPR, whatever. An earlier deal approved by a federal bankruptcy court did grant the Sacklers immunity from opioid lawsuits. Under this new deal, the Sacklers and Purdue Pharma actually agreed to pay more, about $500 million more than under the previous deal, without getting the big firewall against future lawsuits. The deal also sets aside $800 million for a legal fund that the Sacklers could use in the future if they're sued. And let's see, once finalized, this $7.4 billion deal would come up on top of roughly $50 billion in opioid settlement cash already agreed to by other big companies. And I think most of you know this, but without the Sackler family and Purdue Pharma, it's unlikely that the opioid epidemic would be anywhere near what it is in the U.S. with hundreds of thousands now dead. Because it has been revealed through many, leaked documents, leaked videos, leaked paperwork, all of it, that the Sackler family and Purdue Pharma knew that although they were claiming that these opioids like OxyContin were not addictive and that the time release mechanism or whatever made them non-addictive, and even if someone got addicted, it wasn't that big a deal, or they had all these excuses that they would tell doctors, and doctors tend to rely on the facts they're given for this stuff. It was complete bullshit, and any person who was getting addicted to these knew that you could just mash up the pill and get past the time release mechanism. But it was highly addictive. They would actually tell people that these were less addictive than things that were far less addictive. So doctors would be prescribing these thinking they're prescribing the less addictive version of something, and it's absolutely not. And they knew this, and they knew the bodies were were piling up, and they just kept going because it was making them billions and billions of dollars. They just kept going. And, I'm sure once all is said and done, these people will still be billionaires. So it's like, and it seems they're not going to prison. So it's like, how much can you really say they've seen justice? I mean, in really just world, they'd be in prison as much as the guy who got 3 strikes and you're out in Louisiana because he stole a jacket and now he's in prison for the rest of his life. And you're telling me these guys who killed hundreds of thousands shouldn't be in prison? That makes a lot of sense. But it is at least better than nothing that there is some payouts going to families and things like that. And I believe I have that right, that they're losing their company. But it also is the exception that proves the rule. Generally speaking, corporate America does not see any day in jail for their crimes, but does not see any even large fines. I mean, most of the time when these people get fined, it's what the company makes in a day or a week or at worst a month. So this is a rarity. And, it generally is when they can take a specific people, a specific group of people or a specific company and put them off to the side and be like, we'll make them the scapegoat for a much larger problem. Big pharma is a massive problem in this country. But as long as we can have one scapegoat over there, it's kind of like Bernie Madoff. Bernie Madoff was the most egregious of those stealing from Americans and gambling with the money. But he's not the only one. And they made an example of him because, for one, he stole from rich people. But for two, they can tell America we got the bad guy. But of course, plenty more bad guys. They didn't rip up Wall Street. They weren't checking under the desks to see that they got every last son of a bitch off Wall Street. No, they found one dude and they went after him, which I'm all for. But I'm all for going after him. I'm not all for going after one dude. Okay, I am. There we go. I wrapped up the show on a good note there for once. I'm gonna wrap up the show, but like I said, episode 2, and I have no live stream tomorrow because I do Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday. But episode number 2 of Unredacted tonight. I hope you will support the show. 7 p.m. Thursday Eastern, 7 p.m. Thursday, 4 p.m. Pacific. Mark your calendars. Write it down because you're not going to get an alert. YouTube's not going to tell you. It's just they're not going to do it. So hope you will show up and enjoy the premiere. And again, I'm going out on a limb. Second episode better than the first. I think so. You'll have to decide for yourself. I'll put the for those of you who haven't seen it. Let's see. I'll put the first episode here in the chat in case you haven't seen the first episode. And I hope you will support the show because, like I said, it's always tough to get something new off the ground, but people have been liking this, and I really hope you'll keep supporting it. So, oh yeah, and Eric the Red's reminding me that I'll be on Sabby Sab's show as well, Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern. So right after the premiere of episode 2 of Unredacted tonight. So you could make it a little twofer. You could watch the premiere. It ends around 7:30. Then get yourself a beer and a roasted turkey or something. I'm vegetarian, but you do you. A fake roasted turkey and enjoy that for half an hour, and then I'll be on Sabby's show. So it's gonna be a hell of a. That's what we call must watch right there. Okay. Keep fighting, everybody, and I will see you Thursday for another Dangerous Ideas, and I will see you Thursday also. Let's see, that's at 3 p.m. Eastern New Pacific, and I'll see you Thursday also for the episode 2 of Unredacted Tonight. Keep fighting.
Well, brother, I salute you, though, man. You're one of the few that bring together this tremendous artistic talent and still be in such deep solidarity with oppressed people.
It's an honor to be here because I'll tell you, Lee, you have one of the funniest shows on television, bar none.
It's an enormous pleasure to be here. While I was waiting, I was leafing through your wonderful book.
The same to you. I love your show. Be happy to come back anytime.
Lee, this is one of the great honors of my long career, just to be in in the same earth with you.
I'm sure.
We're just so blinded. We have so many blinders on because our society doesn't want us to know things. And so it takes shows like your show, and
it is clearly designed to eradicate.
Hey, good to see you.
Hey, Jill, how are you? Julian, thanks for joining me. Honor to have you, brother.
Consumerism is a theory that people should behave this way to help each other. It's not.
Mr. George Galloway, thank you so much for joining me in these dark times.
Always a pleasure, my friend.
Thank you so much, Lee, for having me on. Keep fighting. Ha ha.